Let's get a reply now from JP Smith, who's the MMC for Safety and Security in the city of Cape Town, who's going to be giving us a sense of what exactly is going on here. And Mr. Smith, I do understand that you are with us now. There was a problem with your line a little earlier on. Thank you so much for your time. I'm sure you were listening to Mr. Herron. If what he's saying is anything to go by, the city of Cape Town is running a parallel operation to the SAPS?
No, ma'am. I know Brett lives in a world where the fantasies cooked up by good constitute legal realities, but no. We've had this constitutionally checked out, legally checked out. The unit has existed since 1994. It was initially a theft loss unit that dealt with internal investigations around the loss and pilferage at depots, the theft of vehicles, gradually took over all the internal investigations of staff conduct, and then started dealing with investigations pertaining to drug houses, etc., in council rental stock. And now is expanding into areas like the watching briefs. Watching briefs, by the way, where the provincial watching briefs won awards for that project, which is a project that oversees or monitors the progress of criminal charges, where our officers in law enforcement and Metro Police have arrested people for firearms and drugs, where there's a big gang-related element, where we track that case to make sure that there's meaningful convictions and that the case doesn't just evaporate or fall off the roll, and where it is withdrawn, that we petition the NPA to place that case back so that we get more meaningful conviction results. And as a consequence of that, between LEAP and our Safety and Security Investigations Unit, we are steadily driving down our crime rates to the extent that the National Commissioner had recently had to admit that the Western Cape was the only province that had made a meaningful impact on its crime stats.
Where do the police fit in here?
We work very closely with SABC. So we are not doing SAPS's job for them. SAPS have the primary investigative function, but nothing stops us from undertaking investigations where we are monitoring what happens to cases where our officers made arrest. If your officer makes an arrest for a firearm and that case is withdrawn because a report doesn't come back, or even a drunk driving case, which is some of the stuff that they monitor. And that drunk driving case is removed from the roll because the investigating officer doesn't place the case back on the roll when the blood alcohol report comes back. Then we make sure that that's placed back.
Who does this unit report to, Mr. Smith?
Exactly as all other units. I know that they're in the fantastical imaginings of Herron and co. They believe that there is some kind of reporting line. To me, that's preposterous. This unit reports to a manager, who reports to a director, who reports to an executive director, who reports to the city manager, is overseen by the portfolio committee and council and a civilian oversight committee of independent members of the public appointed by the city to do just that, as with law enforcement, Metro Police and traffic. The failure by any other sphere, ma'am, you didn't interrupt here, and so let me just conclude. The failure to include them under the auspices, or even our law enforcement, municipal peace officers across this country, are not included under the purview of IPID. That's not the failure of the city. The failure to provide for that is the failure of national government, who've known for more than a decade that municipal peace officers are not included in IPID, and it's something that we've asked to be amended. So that failure you must ask Minister Cele about.
So I'm going to ask you this question at the back of what you've just said. Chapter 11 of the Constitution, under the Establishment, Structuring and Conduct of Security Services, says the security services must be structured and regulated by national legislation. From what you've described to say that this unit falls under and what it does and who it reports to, it sounds to me like the national police may not necessarily be the legislation for this particular unit, which may then in and itself lead to possible violation of the Constitution?
No, ma'am, I understand that you have talking points and so that assist you and guide you in this, but the interpretation is profoundly wrong.
I don't have talking points. In fact, I do the research myself, and I was reading the Constitution, and this is exactly what it says. Now, my question to you is, are you doing this in line with the Police Act? Is the minister aware and the commissioner of what you're doing?
Absolutely, ma'am, because this unit features in the annual police plan that is signed off by the provincial police commissioner. This unit is subject to the same oversight that all the other cities units are, and produces reports to the portfolio committee on which Herron has members in council now. The unit does not gather intelligence at all. It answers to the normal line of command and control, and is subject to all the other laws. The Criminal Procedures Act is the enabling piece of legislation for municipal peace officers. And that's something that Herron doesn't appear to understand. But it is simple that all municipal peace officers, not just in Cape Town, but in all the municipalities across South Africa, are empowered by that legislation. And the investigative competency is not exclusive to SABC. Lawyers do investigations. Lawyers did the massive investigation for the city in the Bowman and Gilfillan investigation, on the heels of which Herron and de Lille had to leave the city in view of that massive forensic investigation. That was conducted by lawyers. The Speaker's office conducts investigations with normal staff, not specifically legally enabled. So investigations is not an exclusive competency. There's all manner of private investigators and everybody else in this country who do conduct investigations.
Now, as a final question in 10 seconds, if you're saying that everything is above board and the police minister as well as the national commissioner are aware of this, why then are they entertaining Mr. Herron and saying that they're going to look into this matter? Because they simply could have said, well, we know about this, it exists, there's nothing here.
Look, I think the reality is that that was probably a conversation that took place even before Herron wrote to the minister, and at the moment they desperately need something to distract the South African population from the shambolic handling of Parliament and the devastating and ruinous failure of the fire safety systems by Herron's boss as the Minister of Public Works.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Smith, for your time. We'll be sure to really get the SAPS to see if, as you say, they are in fact aware of this and are okay with what's going on, so that we can really get to the bottom of what's going on here. That was JP Smith, who's the MMC for Safety and Security in the city of Cape Town.